All right, so we're ready to get started. As you can see on the agenda, and I just announced this to class, but to tell everybody, I know we're running a weird schedule today, going to every class. The good news is that this class is normal. Okay, at least for me, it's a good news because we got a lot to cover still. This class is normal because I have you for both third period and fourth period. Okay, and this is a great moment to remind you that this is both an English class and a social studies class, okay? And on your transcript, it counts as 2 classes. So this is the biggest class that you have that will impact your GPA for the school year, okay? Possibly for your whole high school career because it is worth 2 full credits, okay? A social studies credit and an English credit. You need basically 4 credits of each to graduate. Okay, so you're getting 1 credit for each of those this year. And the way that impacts your GPA is that this grade for this class goes into your transcript twice. Okay, so if you get an A in this class, you get 2 A's on your transcript. If you get a D, you get 2 D's on your transcript, one for English, freshman English, and one for social studies, okay? So you need to kind of pay attention to that as you're going forward. And just to make sure we're really on top of it, when you go to do your GPA, let's talk about this for a second, because I'm getting some kind of blank looks when it comes to GPA. Your GPA looks like a number, okay? And it's a 1 through or a 0 through 4 scale, okay? And A equals a 4, okay? Is this backwards on y'all's screen at home?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's going to be frustrating. But an A is a 4. Let's just not do both. An A is a 4, a B is a 3, a C is a 2, a D is a 1, and an F is a 0. Okay, so backwards for you. But you get the idea. Okay, actually, I bet I can do it.
Write it backwards.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I am not Da Vinci. I can't do backwards writing. Let's just go to a Google Doc. That'll be easier. Because we should cover this just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Let that load up. So an A is a 4, a B is a 3, C is a 2, a D is a 1, and an F is a 0. Okay? So if your grades are right now, let's say you have an A, a C, a B, an F, and another A. Okay, so those are your grades for your classes. Let's say that the C is World Studies. Okay, so that actually will go in twice as 2 C's. Okay, to calculate your GPA, you do. Let me zoom in just a little bit so y'all can see a little bit better. To calculate your GPA, you would then do the numbers for each class. So let's say the A is worth 4. How much is the C worth? 2. So if that's your World Study C, then you get 2 number 2s. What's the B worth? 3. What's an F worth? 0. And those will kill your GPA. And then an A is a 4. Okay? You add all those together. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15. So you make a total. Okay? So you total them all up, and then you divide by the number of classes that you have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes. Divided by 6. You've got to calculate what's 15 divided by 6. Yep. 2.5. 2.5 GPA. Okay, and you can probably remember from our first project what GPAs you needed to get in some of those colleges. Okay, a lot of them are around a 2.8 to 3.0, depending on your ACT score. Okay, let's let's take that F out and make it a C. I'm sorry, let's take that F out and make it a C. And then take these C's in world studies. Let's make them B's. See how that changes everything. So these become 3s. And that F becomes a 2. Now it's 4, 7, 10, 13, 15, 19. So what's 19 divided by 6? 19 divided by 6 is a 3.16, but we'll call it a 3.2. We'll round up to 3.2 GPA. So just changing that F to a C and those 2 C's to a B, that's not completely revolutionary, changing your grade point average. That jumps you up a 0.7, and then all of a sudden, those colleges, it's much easier to get in those colleges. So that's how GPAs work, okay? The reason I'm talking about this right now is because I had a student ask me on Friday, because we were talking about their grades, and they were like, well, how does this affect my GPA? They didn't understand. So I was like, okay, we need to look at this a little bit deeper. So that's how you calculate your GPA, and that's how you know. And obviously, you'll take all 4 years of high school, and that'll become your GPA. So it's really important. It's a lot easier to keep a high GPA than to pull a GPA out from nothing. And the good news is we are only through about 25% of the year. So you got a lot of time to make sure to bring up your grades before the end of the semester or before the end of the year. Okay? All right.
I'll tell you real quick on the intersection.
Go ahead.
I know senior year seems quite a ways off right now, but
all right, listen up.
my stepdaughter just got accepted to Indiana University, and we got a letter in the mail that she's already received a $16,000 scholarship.
That's awesome.
Just because of her grades.
That's awesome.
So those grades will pay you in the long run. Not only that, but your keys money. So you'll get that as well.
Yep, you can actually make money off your grades whenever you go on to college or other programs. So we'll look at that more later. But I just wanted to kind of, as we're starting this week, thinking about that going forward. So looking back at the agenda, continuing on, there will not be no red ink this week since we're out Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's kind of a weird week. We're not going to do a no red ink this week. But at the end of the week, we will have a test covering the ChemChart terms, geography workshop, government workshop on the following days. So Group B students, if you're at home right now, you will take the test on Friday, November 6th, because I'm going to do it in person, okay? So Group B, you're going to take it Friday, November 6th. Group A students, so if you're sitting in the room right now, you're going to take a week from now, so Monday, November 9th. Okay, because I'm going to do that test in person. I'm not going to let and while people are taking the test in class, y'all are going to be doing something distance learning, vice versa. So you need to be ready for that. So what you need to do to prepare for that is the big thing is look over those ChemChart terms. Okay, know the ChemChart, know those terms. Look over the geography workshop and look over the government workshop, which we're going to go over today. Okay, so let's look at today's agenda. Number 1, make sure you have completed Benchmark 3, the Mapping Your Hero Civilization. It's due today. We started that on Friday. If you're in here, I said that I'd give you all time today to color your map and add some color to it. You all should have worked on that at home. But that's due today. And how to submit that is you take a picture of the map and put that in the Dropbox. And then you have to answer the 3 questions in Echo. So at the bottom of the assignment, there's 3 questions. Make sure you answer those. 2 of the questions have to do with geography. One's just kind of a fun, would you want to visit that place? Then you have to hold on to your map. Do not lose your map because you're going to use it on your profile that you're going to be making for Big Bang for your hero. Okay? The second thing we got going on today is a workshop on PowerPoint government types and systems. We're about to do that in just a second. And then when you're done with your map, you're done with your PowerPoint, you'll be making sure your ChemChart is complete and studying that for your test that's either on Friday or Monday. So the ChemChart is due before you take the test. Okay, you're going to turn it into me before you take the test. So Group B is due on Friday. Group A you have until Monday. Okay, but we have gone through those terms together. It's not really a big assignment. It's more of a study tool than anything. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to number 2, and we're going to do the workshop for PowerPoint government type systems. If you are at home, I want you to get out that note-taking guide I gave you before you left on Friday. It looks like this, okay? And I said you don't have to do anything with that until Monday. So it says Types and Systems of Government Note-Taking Guide. If you were not here on Friday or you lost this, then you just need to get out a piece of paper and take notes, and then you can transfer them over to the note-taking guide later. So I'm going to pass these out while you all are getting those out at home. So if you're here, you need a pencil. There you go. Yes. You just have to make up a quick test.
Friday. I'm not going to do Friday.
Oh yeah, obviously.
But I'm saying like I'm
Online, there'll be a video and listen to it and just watch the video. Yes. If we have time to get to I have one skill for it. It depends on how well we do. Yes, pencil sharpeners. There's one right by Grace up here, and then there's one back by who is that? Sarah and Tito. So there's 2. So, yeah. The reason I am providing you this note-taking guide is because there's a lot to cover when it comes to government, okay, for this section of this class. This note-taking guide will help you to kind of make it more efficient and easier to kind of listen and take notes at the same time, okay? All right, so everybody should have the note-taking guide. Pencil. Did you get to sharpen your pencil? You did. Okay. Anybody need a pencil in here? Everybody have a pencil? All right. So these notes are available to you in the Civilization Character Project in the Civilization Materials section under PowerPoint Government Types and Systems. And obviously, you can just watch as I'm doing it on here so that you can see it as we go. So why is today kind of I'm glad this timed out like it did. Why is today kind of an interesting day to be doing a kind of a talking about governments? Why? Tomorrow's election day. And this is an old PowerPoint that has, for some reason, I can't find the original. It's a PDF. I would have to like completely redo the PowerPoint to update pictures. Like, is Barack Obama our president right now? No, it's our former president, our current president, Donald Trump. I'll put it on there if I could edit it, but I don't want to recreate the whole thing just for one picture. But Donald Trump is up for re-election this year, okay? And who is he running against? Joe Biden. He's running against other candidates. For example, hey guys, listen up. Austin, listen up. Talking, doing a workshop, so you need to be listening.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. That's okay. So Biden is his, he's running against Joe Biden, who's under the what ticket? What party is he running with? The Democrats, and Trump is running with what party? Republican. And there's other parties that are running, like the Libertarian Party. Joe Jorgensen is their leading person for their candidate. I can actually, and so can Miss Stockdale, when we go and vote, guess who's on our presidential list? Kanye West. I can actually vote for Kanye West. He entered to run as the president of the United States. So he's also on our ballot. So there's not only 2 people to vote for. It just depends on who lines up to be voted. And that's how the democratic process works, that people can run for whatever position. And to get on the ballot, you have to get a certain amount of signatures. So Kanye West happened to get enough signatures and people to say, hey, I'm interested in him as a candidate to be able to get on our ballot. Will he be taken seriously in this presidential race? I would guess he is not, but who knows? We'll see what happens tomorrow, okay? Who knows? We might have President Kanye by Wednesday. Probably not. But democracy in our form of government is not the only government, obviously, okay? Throughout history, we have lots of different governments. And today we're going to be looking at types and systems of governments, okay? Types and systems of governments. So this type is who rules and who participates, okay? So type talks about how citizens or people participate in power, okay? So that first line says type, who rules and who participates. Systems is how is the power distributed throughout the country, okay? So we're going to talk about types of government and systems of government, okay? So systems is how the power is distributed, and type of governments is who participates, okay? So that's the difference there. The first section we're going to be talking about are types of governments. And types of governments, let me scoot back so y'all can see a little easier. Types of governments are based on this one key question. Power to govern, who governs and what is the citizen participation? Okay, so how do we, as people in the government, how do we participate? So who governs and what is the citizen participation? Okay, for example, how old do you have to be to vote in the United States? 18. So we have students at this school who actually have the ability to vote, okay? Ms. Stockdale and I and other teachers have the ability to vote, okay? So we can participate in our government. If we were in a monarchy or a dictatorship, could we vote? Do we have a voice? No, we're going to talk about the differences on that, okay? So there are three big overarching types of government, okay? We have autocracy, we have oligarchy, and democracy. Now, each of these can be broken up into many different types, okay? But we have autocracy, oligarchy, and democracy. Those are terms on your chem chart, okay? Terms that you need to know on your chem chart. All right, so let's talk first about autocracy. And if you look at your notes, you can see this is a note-taking strategy where you kind of use bullets and you indent on important parts. So we have type of government, and we're looking at types. So our first big bullet is autocracy. And it says, power to govern is held by one person, okay? An easy way to remember this is think auto, okay? It's automatic, okay? You don't have to ask anyone for their input because only one person rules. Whatever they say automatically goes. That's why it's called an autocrat, okay? Or an autocracy, okay? Government is held, power is held by one person. It is usually inherited or taken by military force, okay? So one person rules, and many of your civilizations that you're researching will be autocratic civilizations, meaning that there's like an emperor or queen or king, empress that kind of rules over everyone and makes all the decisions. So generally, this power is inherited or taken by force, and there's three types of autocracies, three major types. There's many, many different types. You want to get really specific, but there's three major types of autocracy, especially types that we're going to talk about in this class, okay? So the first one is a dictatorship, okay? Dictatorship. And this is where the leader is not elected, okay? The leader is not elected to power, okay? And use of force is used to control social and economic life, okay? So the people do not get a choice, okay? The dictator, this is under number 1, dictatorship. B, use of force to control social and economic life, okay? So what does social mean? What does social mean? What's a social choice you have in the United States? What's a social choice that you have in the United States? What are some of the freedoms we have in the United States? Freedom of speech. So that's a social choice. For me to stand up here and say, I don't like Kanye West for president. That's my right as that's my right as an individual. But in a dictatorship, they can control that social right. Okay. Also, there's a social right to me go and shop wherever I want or buy whatever I want. That's economic choice or economic life. Okay. Dictators control economic life, meaning like where I work, what I buy, where I spend my money, where I can shop, so on and so forth. Economic life. Examples of this are Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. Okay, they are dictators who got their power by using force and were not elected. Now, some of y'all might sit here who are a little bit more history buffs and you say, wait, Hitler was elected and nominated and put in as chancellor. Yes, so Hitler rose to power and was elected as chancellor, but he took dictatorship power because he had control of the SS brown shirts and essentially the military, okay? And he ends up taking a dictatorship role from that, okay? But long story short, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin are examples of dictators. All right, number 2, absolute monarchy. These are like kings, queens, emperors, empresses, and their power is inherited, okay? So their power is inherited or passed down, okay? So that blank for B would be passed down. So it goes from one generation to the next generation to the next generation, okay? Many of your civilizations that you're going to be researching are going to have absolute monarchs, okay, in which power is handed down from generation to generation, okay? Kings and queens, emperors and empresses, okay? A monarch equals absolute power, okay? So C, monarch equals absolute power. Does not need to consult anyone, okay? So that B is monarchs equal absolute power, doesn't need to ask anyone, okay, or consult anyone. If they make a choice, it happens, okay? And these actually still exist today. Brunei, Oman, Saudi Arabia, the Vatican City. These are absolute monarchs in which there is someone at the head of the state, of the government, that has absolute power, okay, and gets to pass down their power. Absolute monarchies. All right, the next one. So this one's kind of a weird one, okay? It's kind of an autocracy, but not, okay? It's called a constitutional monarchy, okay? What's a constitution? What's a constitution? Can anybody raise their hand and tell me what a constitution is? Does the United States have a constitution? Yeah. Okay. What does that constitution tell? Who does it make the rules for? The what? The government. Thank you, Jackson. So the Constitution makes the rules for government. Okay? So this monarchy has rules for their government. Okay? Do you think an absolute monarch, someone that has extreme, complete power, wants a constitution and wants kind of rules on how they lead? No. Okay? But on a constitutional monarchy, These monarchs have allowed for a constitution to be created and rules put on them. Okay? So, in these constitutional monarchies, monarchs share power with elected legislature. What's a legislature? You can tell me what a legislature is. Huh?
Isn't it like a way to make sure a law is good enough to be passed?
Yeah, so legislator is elected officials. It's the people that we vote for to be in power. Yeah, so their main job, Wyatt was right on it, their main job is to make laws. Okay? But a legislature are elected officials. Okay? For example, our legislators in Kentucky for our government are senators and representatives. Okay? The legislative branch of government. Y'all should have learned this in middle school. Okay? Where there are 3 systems of government. Okay? What are our 3 parts of government? We have the legislative branch, or 3 branches. Legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive. Okay, good. We did learn this in middle school. Perfect. So the executive branch is our president and the executive offices with the president. The judicial branch is the Supreme Court. And this legislative branch are our elected officials, like representatives and senators who go and make laws. Okay? So in a constitutional monarchy, the monarchs share power with these legislative representatives. So B here is, the second note here is that figureheads or these monarchs are ceremonial, meaning they have no real power to govern. Okay? They mainly are just running the government or doing kind of the ceremonial side of the government. Okay? For example, who is this? Right down here. Queen Elizabeth, okay? She does a lot of ceremonial things, like if you become a lord or lady or a knight in, like Sir William Richard would be my name, she would do the ceremony where you kneel in front of her and she uses the sword and saber and puts it on your shoulders. So she is ceremonial, okay? She doesn't actually have power, okay, to make decisions. Now, there's some gray areas, but for the most part, she doesn't really have power. And then C is government is democratic, okay, which we have a democracy, so it's kind of similar to ours, and it's democratic, which limits monarchs' power, okay? So C is government is democratic, which limits monarchs' power. An example of this is Great Britain, okay, like we were just talking about with Queen Elizabeth. She's the longest reigning monarch in history, okay? She has lived longer and served as a monarch longer than anyone in history, okay? And she still seems to be doing really well. It'll be really big news whenever she passes away. Won't really affect the United States, but might Canada and some other countries in the world. All right, let's keep going. So those are our 3 autocratic or autocracies: dictatorship, absolute monarchy, and constitutional monarchy. So let's go on to our next type of government, which is an oligarchy. Okay? Oligarchy. Okay? So an oligarchy is a government of few people. A dominant clan or a clique have power. Okay, so a small group. So we're going from an autocracy where it's one person has all the power to an oligarchy where only a few people have power. Okay? So we see this in Greece. Whenever we're looking at ancient Greece, we see quite a few oligarchies in power, okay? Later in Greece, do we see democracy, okay? Later on. But most of the history of the Greek city-states, we see oligarchy. And these people are groups or sets of people who gain their power from military, wealth, or social status. Okay? They gain their power through military, wealth, or social status. And there are people in the United States that criticize the United States and say we're almost an oligarchy because all of our representatives are wealthy, okay? And that's not necessarily true, but many of them are, okay? Do we have an oligarchy? No, but there are people who argue with it. We have formed an oligarchy. So they get their power through military, wealth, or social status. So they can have elections, but only offer one real candidate. Okay, they kind of control the election, and the only people that can really vote or have power are the people with military strength, wealth, or social status. So they have kind of these quote unquote they have these quote unquote elections, but there's really no competition. Okay. Sparta was a really interesting oligarchy because they're a diarchical oligarchy, okay, meaning that they had two monarchs that shared family power. So that's kind of why they're listed here as an example. Athens had the most accurate oligarchy, in which was an aristocracy. Okay, does anyone know what an aristocracy is based on? Who has the most what? Wealth and social status. Okay, so an aristocracy. You don't have to know what an aristocracy is for the test or anything like that, but it's all based on wealth and social status. Caudillos are so during the age of exploration, as Spanish explorers came to Central America, Spain was under a monarchy, but that monarchy did not stretch into Spain, and an oligarchy formed, and these caudillos were people who rose to power that owned large estates throughout the land. Okay, so that was another example of an oligarchy. All right, let's keep going. So our third type is a democracy, which you should be most familiar with because we live in a democracy. Okay? So in a democracy, the government is ruled by the people. Okay? The government is ruled by the people. This is not an idea that the United States came up with. This has been an idea from the ancient world, democracy. Okay? But it is an idea that the United States kind of branched off of and created our own kind of representative democracy. We'll talk about that in a second. So within democracy, there are two forms or types of democracy. Forms of democracy. There are direct democracies in which people vote on all the issues. Okay? So anything that comes up, any law that needs to be created, any issue that comes up, all people vote on all of the issues. Do we do that in the United States? Do I go to the election poll and vote on every single law? No, we don't do that in the United States. What's one issue with having us do that in the United States? It's very time consuming. Okay, are we a small country? No, we're a very large country with a large population. Okay, and that would be very difficult, very time consuming, and difficult to do. And that's the argument kind of against direct democracy. But Switzerland, which is a much smaller country, much smaller population, has more of a direct democracy in which the people are given more laws to choose. Yeah, awesome. Yes, that's right. So what we have is a representative democracy. A representative democracy, people elect representatives and give them the power to vote on issues. Okay? So what we were just talking about. People elect representatives and give them the power to vote on the issues. An example of that is the United States, obviously. All right, so in a democracy, and this is kind of the next like 4 bullets there. In a democracy, individual freedom and equality are valued. Individual freedom and equality valued. We have free elections, meaning that any citizen is allowed to vote. Now, there are rules on that election, like you can't be under the age of 18. And then states do have like other rules, like you have to have identification, or if you have like a crime, like a federal offense, you can't vote, things like that. But for the most part, free elections. Decisions are based on majority rule, meaning that whoever gets the majority wins. So decisions are based on majority rule. And all candidates can express their views freely. So candidates are allowed to go out and say how they feel, what they believe. They have that freedom of speech. And there is a secret ballot. Secret, meaning no one can force me to tell who I voted for. Okay? It's a secret. No government official can force me to say who I voted for, nor will my information for who I vote be given out. That's why we go into you've probably seen a voting booth where you kind of go into a little area, shut the screen, and you vote, or there's blinders that keep your ballot secret. Okay? And I'm a person that, and you have the freedom to say who you voted for. You're welcome to vote, say, and tell people you're welcome to do that, but you don't have to. I'm a person that's very private about that. I don't share with a lot of people who I vote for. Now, we can talk politics when we talk about different representatives and their value and things like that, but I think that it's my private information. All right, there are 2 types of democratic representative governments, and that is parliamentary and presidential. Okay, so next to parliamentary, you can write whose flag is that right there? Canada. So you can write Canada on that line, and then presidential, that's our flag, United States. So let's talk about parliamentary first. So we're flipping the paper over. Parliamentary democracy. So this is what Canada has. Great Britain has this. France. A lot of countries that used to be constitutional monarchies are now parliamentary democracies. So voters elect members to parliament, which is basically what they call their legislature. Okay, we just talked about legislatures. It's where the elected representatives go to make laws. They call it a parliament. Okay. And their parliament is bicameral, meaning there's 2 houses. Let me slow down, sorry. So voters elect members to parliament, which is the legislature, that group of representatives who make laws for the people. So parliament is made up of 2 houses. Bicameral, which means 2 houses, bicameral. The first is the House of Commons. And what I want you to write on that line, just to be easy, the House of Commons are elected officials or elected representatives. And those elected officials or elected representatives choose their prime minister. Okay? That's a difference between parliamentary democracy and representative democracy. Who votes for and selects the president in our country? Technically. We'll talk about that in a second. But who votes for the president? People, the people of the country. In a parliamentary democracy, the people do not vote their executive officer. They do not vote for their prime minister. Their representatives pick their prime minister. Okay? So it's like us voting for our senators and representatives, and then our senators and representatives pick the president. Okay? Now they call it a prime minister. But that's the big difference there. And then the House of Lords has little power, with most members being nobles having inherited their titles. Okay? So little power. With no real power. They're kind of just nobles that have inherited their power. All right, so now let's talk about our system, our presidential system. And I know we're covering a lot. That's why we did the note-taking guide. And we'll probably cover, the next couple slides and we'll be done. We're not going to do this whole thing today. So stick with me here. So in a presidential democracy, voters elect legislators. What we've been talking about, those representatives, senators and representatives. We elect the legislators. And then voters indirectly vote for the president. Okay? Now, why do we say indirectly? Does anyone know why it's indirect? What do we have in the United States that's a little bit different? So when Miss Stockdale and I go vote for president, our vote doesn't go directly to... Do we decide our presidential vote on a popular election? Meaning whoever gets the most votes wins for the president? No. We use what's called the Electoral College. And I'm going deeper than you need to take notes on. But I'm just kind of giving you why it's indirect. We have Electoral College in which it goes to each state. So the majority of Kentucky, and usually Kentucky goes red or Republican historically. So if 70%, throwing out a random number, if 70% vote for Donald Trump, who's the Republican candidate, then all of the votes for Kentucky go to President Trump. Okay, he doesn't get 70%. Okay, there's a few states that do that. Okay, you'll get into that with U.S. government your senior year. But just so you know, since tomorrow's election day, that's why it means indirect. Okay? So, with the presidential democracy, since in a presidential democracy, the citizens vote for both the legislators and the president, that little bullet below there on presidential democracy, voters have more power and say. Okay? Voters have more power and say. Because we vote for both the legislative branch and the executive branch. And to break that down further, the parliamentary systems on the left there, that little blanket says citizens elects legislative, legislative elects executive. Okay, so say that again, filling in those blanks. Citizens, kind of moving up this way, citizens elect the legislative branch, and then the legislative branch elects the executive branch, the prime minister. So you can see that the citizens don't really have the power to vote for the executive branch. Okay? So whoever gets the most power in the legislative branch gets to pick the executive branch. Now, that makes for a very efficient government, okay? Because both the legislative branch and the executive branch are working together, okay? Because they're the same party, essentially. Whoever has a majority in the legislative has more majority in the executive. That's a benefit of the parliamentary system. Now, in a presidential system, the citizens elect both the executive and the legislative. Okay, so in those blanks, it'd be citizens elect executive, citizens elect legislative. While that gives more power to the citizen, you can have situations where the executive branch is Republican, while the legislative branch is Democratic. Do we have that going on right now? Kind of, yeah. So the first 2 years of President Trump's term as president, he had a majority in both the House and the Senate. This last election in 2018, the House of Representatives went Democratic. So it's been harder for Trump's agenda to be fulfilled, okay, because the House of Representatives has made it really hard for him. What did the House of Representatives do to him? Which it's funny because a lot of Americans forget about this, but what did they do to Trump last year? No, they didn't try to impeach him. They impeached him. They impeached President Trump. Now, impeachment doesn't mean removal from office. The Senate has to remove him from office, okay? Which the Senate did not, right? Because the Senate is controlled by what party? His party, well, not his party, well, the same party, the Republicans. And the Republicans said, no, we're not going to remove him. Okay? So is our government split right now? Yeah, it's pretty split, okay? Which slows things down. That's kind of the negative. But if you go back to the originalists and the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, they set up purposefully for our government to move slowly and change slowly, okay? Because they didn't want one person to have sweeping power that can do whatever they want. So this is kind of how they set it up. Again, we're getting deeper than we need to. So I'm going to pause there because we're not going to move on to systems of government until Thursday, so I can see it in your mind. And I know some of y'all were zooming and got it all done. That's perfect. Hold on to those notes. I want to show you all something before I let you go. I should have had this pulled up already. Sorry. Owensboro Times, and you can find these often before elections, and I always have. Let's see here. But they did a really good job of showing the different people that are up for election and things like that. Let's see if I can find the... Just so you guys can see, here it is, the sample ballot. So whenever Ms. Stockdale and I go to vote, or anyone that's of age, this is what our ballot kind of looks like. It depends on where your address is exactly, because you don't get to vote for all of these positions. Depending on where you live, you do. But this is what a ballot looks like in Kentucky for Owensboro, okay? So you can see right here, I wasn't joking, Kanye West. I can vote for Kanye West if I want to. But you have you can vote straight party, meaning I can mark that bubble right there. Like I can mark Republican or Democratic or Populist or Libertarian Party, and it will vote for every single person on that ticket that runs for that office, okay, that runs in that party, okay? So I can vote that way. That's a system that is in place in our country. But then I can vote for president and vice president. So you can see that right there. I can vote for United States senators. I've gotten phone calls from both of these groups throughout the last couple weeks. Have they been blowing up your phone, Miss Stockdale? Oh, I mean, call. Hi, we're with the McGrath party or election. Yeah. Probably your parents are getting a bunch of these. Okay. We can vote for United States Representative, Brett Guthrie. Linderman Carter Guthrie is the incumbent. You can vote for state representative, which is our local election. Mine is this one right here. This is an interesting one right here. State representative race, DJ Johnson versus Jim Glenn. 2 years ago, they ran against each other. And guess how many votes was split their numbers? How many? 6. Anybody else want to guess? Who said 1? It was 1 vote. 1 vote out of thousands of votes split their election, and Jim Glenn won by 1 vote. Okay, and they actually came and talked to my senior class, and some of my seniors voted that year. And like after they heard the election, they were walking up to me like, "I voted! Oh my gosh!" So their vote really counted, like really, really counted in that election. But every vote counts in the election. Now you can see on the back here, this is constitutional amendments. This is a little bit of direct democracy, where we as citizens are getting a chance to vote directly on a constitutional amendment, okay? To where that Constitution for Kentucky, we can amend it. Now, look at how much information is on this, okay? There's 600 plus words. What did you say? Oh, did you already vote?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So Miss Stockdale did early voting, and she had to read through all of this. I luckily looked at the ballot, and I was like, what is all this? And it's very legal jargon. It's kind of interesting that they put this on here. To sum it up really quickly, the first one's called Marsy's Law, in which it's allowing for citizens, the victims, quote unquote victims of,
Yeah,
ads, yeah.
yeah.
Talking about Marsy's Law. Yeah.
My dad,
So y'all have heard about the Marsy's Law. Good. That's good that y'all have heard about that. But essentially, it allows for victims of crimes to have more information about the person that perpetrated the crime. And the second one was about term limits, how long judges can be judges, how long they can be in their actual office. Okay. That they should have a long time or a short time. Yeah.
Short time, and then you get another one because there's one in town that my mom and dad had to deal with. The first one wasn't all that great, and then the next one, it just was worse.
Yeah. So Calvin would vote against this because, not to point you out, but this is looking for longer term limits. So we want you'd like shorter ones, and a lot of people do. So anyways, that's what a ballot looks like. You walk in your booth and you mark them, and then you go over and you scan it in, and they take your vote. So I'm going to end the discussion there. If you so what you need to do before you are done with class, looking over the agenda today, number 1 is make sure benchmark 3 is done. Number 2, make sure you have taken the notes that we've covered so far. We'll finish those on Thursday. And then number 3 is make sure you're working on your chem chart and studying those terms. We've got about 30 minutes left in class, so I'm going to kind of end right there and let you all go and work on those things. I will stay on the Google Meet if you all have questions. Thank you all.